So the next one up is Draft Policy ARIN 2016-8, removal of indirect POC validation requirement. Chris Tacit and Andrew Dull of the Shepherds, and I see Chris coming up to do the presentation. Come on up, Chris.
Thank you very much. Who's got the slides? Oh, the cooker's here. There we go.
Sorry, I moved it on you.
Okay. As this is the problem statement that was provided in support of this particular policy, and it relates to the volume of work required in order for ARIN to contact and verify the POCs every year. There were some assumptions made in the problem statement that some of which may or may not necessarily pan out to be correct, such as whether or not these emails constitute unsolicited commercial emails, the so-called damage to ARIN's ability to conduct ordinary business over email because these emails may be treated as spam, and so on. There is a lot of work associated with this. That certainly, I think we all recognize, is certainly true. But in any event, the author of this proposal believes that POC validation efforts should be directed to directly issued resources, and that has the greatest value for both internet operations, law enforcement. So with that in mind, I just want to show you what the current language of this particular section is. And the change that is proposed is the addition of the red text. And essentially what this does is by mentioning these, specifically it removes the indirect assignment verification requirement. That's the net effect of the new text. So when this went up on PPML, it caused a great deal of discussion. There was a lot of opposition to the proposal. A lot of it was based, a lot of the objections related to the need to ensure that the validation continues in order not to degrade the accuracy of WHOIS. Questions were raised about, why ARIN would have a more difficult time doing this than ICANN does for domain names. And some, of course, stressed what we've also heard with regards to the previous policy, that an accurate WHOIS is important for law enforcement, and as we've heard, for many other purposes. There were some alternate suggestions made in some of those comments. One was, if the workload is too big for ARIN to verify every single one, would sampling do? Can the process be automated more? Can more be done to validate these records upon their creation to ensure their initial accuracy? If the problem is that some of these emails are being treated as spam, can the language of the email be changed so that it doesn't read in as spammy a way, and that would not necessarily require a policy change? Defining more of a direct business relationship with indirect POCs to avoid having validation email labeled as spam. And I guess there isn't a relationship with POCs themselves. The relationship is through contractually through RSAs and LRSAs with orgs. And avoiding the creation of multiple unnecessary records. So these were some of the alternatives. So people who didn't like it suggested a bunch of alternatives. Some questions that we are thinking about is, are some of the underlying assumptions that were made as a basis for the policy, the problem statement, really true? And I've already mentioned these two at the beginning. So we need some assistance from the community in getting some general comments on this proposal. So for example, does the community want us to continue working on this problem? Does the problem statement need to be modified in some way? Would a different policy proposal address it better? And if so, what might that look like? One of the alternatives that seemed to generate considerable interest was ensuring that ARIN validates new POCs upon creation. But of course that doesn't necessarily solve the problem of what's there already. I won't touch the last point, heeding the chair's admonition that we want to talk about this policy focused more on this particular policy rather than a comparison of the policies. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And just whap me or tap me or flag me or sit, whatever is easiest for you. All right, we have another draft policy. We need you to fill up the mics and give discussion. Again, we're looking, let me go back to some of the questions. We'll start with the rear microphone.
Hi, Elvis Velavi for escrow. I think the problem statement needs to be modified. If you could go back a couple of slides to the addition to the one more, this one. So right now, ARIN does the POC validation to every POC in the database, right? That was a question. Or not?
To all 600,000.
All the 600,000 of them.
All of them, everyone.
Right. Right now, the problem statement is, should ARIN only verify the POCs for the resources that were assigned or allocated directly by ARIN? And I think that the responsibility for the resources that are swept or reassigned should actually be delegated to the organization that is doing the SWIP. And I think also that if an organization registers assignments underneath their block that was given by ARIN and then does not follow up with their customers to have their POCs validated or updated, then it's that organization's responsibility. And ARIN may have a stick there.
Thank you. Front microphone.
Owen DeLong, Akamai Technologies, ARIN AC. I represent an organization that has a relatively wide diversity of reassignments issued to us by a relatively large diversity of providers throughout the world. We often learn of POC records and org IDs that have been created on our behalf by these entities when we get the annual POC validation email. It is very useful to us in that getting those emails allows us to go fix those. And we have no other visibility into the fact that these have been created in many cases. So taking out the annual validation of those will actually severely decrease the accuracy of records, at least that apply to my particular organization, because we are constantly seeing new ones of these created. I probably see 2 to 3 of these POC validation emails for creative records of this type per month, to put it into perspective.
Are you therefore not in favor of this problem?
I am therefore very much not in favor of this policy. I think we should drop it like a hot rock.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Rear microphone.
Hi, Louis Lee, Google Fiber, and also the ASOAC. I think that the reallocates and the reassignments should be accurate and audited, but it should be the responsibility of the ISP to keep those records accurate. Would be great if ARIN can invoke 3B of the RSA and complete some random audits of the downstream SWIPs, and then if there's a concern to do a more extensive review of the given ISP's downstream ISP, could follow up on that. Then if ARIN can do some educational outreach about the requirement for the ISPs to do this work and inform them of the possible audit implications of their SWIPs are not in order, that could be a way to move forward on that. There are also some operational concerns that were discussed on PPML, such as the need for downstream organization to act the SWIP. Of course, needs to be sorted out and appropriate concurrent policy crafted.
I wouldn't mind just clearly hearing if you're in support or against, because I had a slight hard time digesting that from your.
Okay. So wouldn't want anything removed, but let me get back to you on it. There's a twist on that. Okay.
I'm happy to we
Great.
will wait in anticipation.
All right.
While we're waiting for our microphone on the side, please.
Hi there, Donnie Roisman with SoftLayer IBM. In short, I am in support of this policy as it's written. I think it makes sense that ARIN's relationship is with the direct recipients of resources from ARIN and those that are interacting directly with ARIN. I do represent an organization that has a significant number of downstream assignments to our customers, and I do agree, as was said previously, that it's the responsibility of the organization to ensure that their POC, their downstream POCs remain accurate. I wanted to, just something that I mentioned during the previous time I was up with the mic, that I think it would be interesting to see what would be the financial impact to ARIN if they shifted, if they invested some resources in active POC validation. I would even argue that hopefully some of the resources that could be freed up from the process of doing needs justification. Again, back to I know this is a recurring theme I mentioned multiple times before. We all agree that the database accuracy should, or many of us agree that database accuracy should be the #1 mission statement of ARIN. And so what I would say, I would support ARIN spending money on human resources to actively ensure the accuracy of that database, and that it has to do with POC resources as well. They agree as well. So anyway, that's what I would say. So I am in support of this. I think ARIN should be spending.
You have to kind of go over it. It could be here for.
Okay. I think it'll be better. I think ARIN will be better spent. ARIN's money would be better spent having their analysts go after accuracy of the database, including POC validations. And in this case, it would be creating a report for organizations to ensure their downstream POCs are accurate, pointing out whether they're inaccurate, and again, finding some way to incentivize them to work on that.
Thank you to the speaker who had to work over sirens during that. John Kern, quickly.
Just to be clear, the reason we're not doing more in investigation is simply because we don't have a policy that says what specifically you'd like us to do. And that, even the resource impact, once we know what you want us to do, we can flesh that out and to see whether or not it's significant or not. But it's, we're definitely not going to preemptively come up with some creative staff thing here where the community hasn't told us, go do this with these resources.
Okay. Rear microphone, please.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. I don't support this policy. I believe many things that Owen said already to be 100% accurate. I would say that being said, we don't define in the NRPM the difference between a detailed SWIP and a simple SWIP. It's for staff and implementation, and it's a technical matter. And to me, this is a technical issue. The issue is that currently ARIN, in my mind, is not following best practices when it comes to detailed, which is the validation after the fact that, yes, you can use Kevin Bloomberg's email address. I actually would like that. That's, and this has been discussed, that part of it does not need to be dealt with in policy. But if org A over there is going to say that Kevin Bloomberg is the user of the space, then Kevin Bloomberg should at least be able to say, yes, I'm actually the user and I would like my personal information, whatever it may be, put into the who is. So that to me is a technical issue and has nothing to do with policy. It's just best practice that if my name is going to get put and my company's information is going to get put on a record, that I have the ability to say yes to that. And that's being discussed on the mailing list.
Quick from John.
Yeah, you're right, that's not a policy issue. It actually is as simple as something you could put in as a request, which is if an email address is being put onto a block, you want ARIN online, you want us to automatically go ask that person to confirm or not accept it. It could be as simple as a feature request. But
yeah.
very different than Section 3.6, which calls for a very specific process for annual POC validation.
I understand. So what I'm saying is I will submit that ACSP request for that technical adjustment. And like I said, I don't support this policy. I don't believe this is the right way to go. There's another policy that we're talking about separately. This one I don't support, and I would like to see this dealt with technically rather than in policy.
So it was reminding me at one of the breaks that we love. I'm just going to make up the acronyms, and because everyone threw it ACSP, the ARIN change suggestion process. Just a reminder, there are other avenues other than the policy process we're dealing with today. If you have operational suggestions for ARIN, we have a formal suggestion process. We'll have open microphone tomorrow, I believe, as well as Wednesday. So if you do have suggestions from an operational perspective, they are always welcome, even if they are technically at a scope of policy. I'm going to go with that far microphone. I think it was close, but I'm going to go for that one first.
Craig Thompson, McCallwell Global. I recently signed up for Uber, although I didn't know it. I got an email on my business account that I have with Gmail as, like a separate contact address, that someone in Memphis, Tennessee had signed up for Uber and used my business email address. I have no idea why. Took me a few days to get it sorted out, but finally did. And I'm not in favor of this policy because I believe that each person who is listed needs to have the right to be able to say, well, that's correct or incorrect. And I also, from an ISP perspective, think that the ISP should only maximally be responsible for the org aspect of SWIP and not the point of contacts themselves, because that would say, okay, you need to know everybody who works for these organizations as well. It just simply needs to be, if you SWIP it to somebody, you say it's SWIP to this company, this org ID, and then that particular org is responsible for updating their POCs. So, and I would also suggest that it could either be a policy change, something in the documentation that says if you take IP space and you reallocate it to your own customers, then part of your legal agreement is that they have not a necessarily contractual relationship with ARIN, but they agree to receive emails from ARIN if that were an issue legally.
Thank you for the comment. Front microphone.
Chris Woodfield, Salesforce, ARIN AC. A fundamental question this policy brings up for me is, why are records being added to the database that have not been validated before entry?
Ooh. That sounds like a good thought to ponder. Ponder, or did you have a direct?
Right, we have no validation requirement in the technical part of the system. No one's ever told us we should, and therefore any ISP can redelegate any line noise they want into the database under their address block.
I think it was just suggested we should, though. Running out of speakers, we do have a little bit of time, so if you'd like to give very valuable feedback to the AC, again, it's fine. Even just go up and say, I support, I don't support, and leave it at that. But if we don't have any, we'll close the mic shortly. Rear microphone, please.
Right, Elvis Valevi, Forest Grow. I just had the first comment on this policy proposal, and I never stated whether I agree or not with it. Let me just say that I agree with this policy proposal as long as it would also delegate, so it would add to it a delegation for the ISP making the sweep to actually be able to verify or be asked to verify the POCs underneath that block.
Okay. We are going to close the microphones after the next speaker finishes. No, starts. That would be really unfair. So please approach a microphone quickly or start typing. We will go to Louis' hat next.
This is Louis' hat right here.
I missed the old hat.
Thank you. To answer your question earlier, sorry I delayed a little bit. So yes, to support the removal of verifying the contact information of downstream customers, but if ARIN would invoke the 3B section of the RSA for random audits, and then sort out Owen's operational issue as a community issue.
Thank you. We now will close the microphones.
I really hate that you just closed the microphones, but Kathy Aronson, just because I feel like it. I feel like this is like Aaron saying, I know all the rest of the database is screwed up, but I'm just going to put this blindfold on and blame it on those guys. I don't agree with this at all. But I personally would like to hear from the people who were in the room last night, like Bobby, about whether you think this would solve your problem or not.
We have a little time, so not to call you out, Bobby, but the question has been raised.
Hi, this is Bobby from FBI. I think the previous policy solves our problem more than this one does. Okay. So I hope that helps you out, Kathy Aronson.
Thank you. Thank you for your score. All right, does it make it worse?
Sorry, the question was, I just had to follow up to Bobby. Does this make your situation worse? I mean, we're potentially removing a lot of data over time,
yes,
right? But
would,
it
yes.
might be inaccurate, so there's a balance there between inaccurate and.
Yeah, then you go into a long conversation. Sometimes bad data is good data because it does give you leads. But on the other hand, we don't want to encourage the continuance of bad data. We want to get good data. So, how we get there, becomes a real sticking point. So I don't think that's helping you that much.
No,
but,
it's very, very helpful to understand.
We know it's a tricky problem, but we're just trying to ensure that we have accurate contact information, no matter who that is and how we get it is, we know it's a problem.
Thank you, and thank you for letting us grab you that. Okay, Chris, any last words? No? John, no? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Chris. Dan, I believe we're going to same as last time, correct? So there'll be no problem. That ends this policy. Thank you very much. I'll throw it over to John for the break. A few minutes later.
So before we go into break, I had forgotten, I was doing my mental math and I forgot that a very large block went into the IANA return pool before it came out the other side and came to ARIN, our portion, and went to the reallocation, and that included some /11 and 12s. It's all on the graph, but when I mentally did the math, I didn't count those. The happy folks at Adrex did some real quick math, and their count of what's been issued through the waiting list I think is right. I haven't double checked it, but it's equivalent of 62/16s. So substantial, almost approaching a /8. I had forgotten about the 45/8 going into the weight pool and back out the other side. So we've had an equivalent, I'd say that's about right, 62/16s. So the waiting list policy has actually handled a substantial amount of address space that went through it.